This story is titled, I Kicked Out My Wife and Stepdaughter After They Tried to Exclude My Son from Our Family. Hello, everyone. Before diving into today's story, I'd like to ask for your help. Our channel has been struggling a bit lately, and subscribing is one of the best ways to support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep delivering content you enjoy. Your support means everything to us, so let's continue growing this community together. Thank you so much. Now, let's get into the story. I never imagined I'd end up sharing something like this, but here I am. I've been married to my wife, Kelly, for 8 years. I thought we had a strong relationship, a solid partnership, and yet somehow Kelly has repaid my efforts by treating my son like he's an outsider in his own home. We live in a 3-bedroom house. Ava, who recently turned 11, has her own room, a space I personally made sure was decorated to her liking. Liam also has his own room, and Kelly and I share the master bedroom. From the outside, it might look like an ideal family setup, but within these walls, there's a divide that grows wider every day, becoming harder and harder to ignore. Ava, in many ways, is a miniature version of her mother. She's entitled and spoiled, though not maliciously so. She doesn't outright bully Liam, but she makes it abundantly clear that she views herself as the star of the house. Kelly, however, is another matter entirely. From the very beginning, she acted as if Liam was solely my responsibility, not hers. She barely speaks to him unless absolutely necessary. And if he's upset or hurt, she remains indifferent. It's not just that she doesn't make an effort to spend time with him, she actively avoids it. Her attention is entirely focused on Ava, her parties, her needs, her whims. Liam, by contrast, is always an afterthought. At first, I told myself that this was simply a transitional phase. After all, blending two families isn't easy, right? I assumed Kelly just needed time to form a bond with Liam. But now, 8 years later, it's clear I was wrong. If anything, the situation has only gotten worse. Kelly has constructed an emotional wall between herself and Liam, and she's shown no intention of ever tearing it down. And Liam? He's an amazing kid. He's kind, polite, and always eager to help. Despite losing his mom 2 years before I married Kelly, he's remained hopeful. He's wanted nothing more than for Kelly to fill the maternal role he's been missing. But the way she treats him, it's like a dagger to the heart. I can see it in his eyes. Every time he looks at her, searching for a hint of affection or acknowledgement, he's met with indifference, or worse, irritation. I noticed this early on, but I kept making excuses for her. When Kelly excluded Liam from family activities, I told myself it was just a coincidence. When she ignored his accomplishments while praising Ava for even the smallest things, I chalked it up to her being preoccupied or distracted. But in hindsight, it's clear this wasn't random. It was a deliberate and consistent pattern of exclusion. Over the years, I've tried bringing this up to her, but every conversation turns into a fight. She accuses me of being overprotective or of overreacting. She insists she treats both kids equally, even when the evidence says otherwise. I even suggested family counseling, but she refused, claiming the issue was entirely mine, not hers. The atmosphere in our home has become unbearable. Ava struts around like she owns the place, with Kelly enabling her every whim. Meanwhile, Liam walks on eggshells, trying not to upset anyone as he struggles to find his place in a house that feels less and less like home. One moment stands out to me more than any other, a moment that drove home just how dire things had become. It was a Saturday morning, and I was working in the garage. Liam came out to show me a drawing he'd been working on. He has a real gift for art, and it's something he's deeply passionate about. He was so excited, practically glowing as he handed me the paper. "This is incredible, buddy," I told him, genuinely impressed. "Let's show Kelly." We went inside, and Liam proudly held up his artwork. "Look what I made, Kelly," he said, his eyes sparkling with hope. Kelly barely glanced at it. "That's nice, Liam," she said flatly before turning back to Ava, who was whining about wanting a snack. "What do you want, sweetheart?" she asked, completely ignoring Liam. I'll never forget the way his face fell. It was as if all the air had been let out of a balloon. He quietly muttered something about going back to his room and walked away. I stood there, frozen, angry, heartbroken. I wanted to yell at Kelly, to shake her and make her understand what she was doing to him. But I didn't. I just stood there, the weight of the realization crashing down on me. This wasn't going to change. Now, every time I see Liam retreat to his room or watch him look at Kelly with that mix of hope and disappointment, it feels like a knife twisting in my stomach. He deserves better. He deserves to feel loved and valued in his own home. And if Kelly isn't willing to step up and be the mother figure he needs, then it's up to me to create a life for him where he can thrive. This is our reality. A blended family that looks perfect on the surface, but is fractured underneath. I'm sharing this because I need to get it off my chest. Maybe someone out there has experienced something similar. Maybe someone has advice or words of wisdom because right now I feel like I'm failing my son. And that's a pain I wouldn't wish on anyone. The breaking point came last weekend during Ava's 11th birthday party. Kelly went all out for the occasion. She decorated the backyard with balloons and streamers, hired a clown, and ordered a custom cake featuring Ava's favorite cartoon characters. The entire setup was extravagant. I went along with it, hoping it might be a chance for the family to bond, or at least pretend to. Liam was excited about the party, too. He had saved up his allowance to buy Ava a small gift, something she had mentioned wanting weeks ago. He even spent hours creating a handmade card, carefully drawing and coloring it. When he showed me the card before the party, he was beaming with pride. "Do you think she'll like it?" Liam asked, his wide eyes full of hope. "She'll love it," I reassured him. "It's thoughtful and personal. She'll see how much effort you put into it." The party began smoothly. The kids ran around the yard playing games, laughing, and enjoying themselves in a way only children can. Liam, though naturally a bit quieter and more reserved, made an effort to join in. When it was time for the cake, everyone gathered around the table. It was an elaborate masterpiece, covered in bright icing and shaped like Ava's favorite cartoon character. The kids gasped in amazement as Kelly lit the candles. I noticed Liam standing a bit away from the group, holding his carefully wrapped gift and handmade card. I leaned toward him and said, "Go stand next to Ava. Let's get a picture of you two together." He gave me a shy smile and moved toward his stepsister, clutching his gift. Just as the camera was about to snap, Kelly's voice rang out. "Liam, step out for a second," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "I want a picture with just Ava." Liam froze. Confusion and hurt crossed his face as his smile faded. For a moment, he hesitated, then slowly stepped aside, his head bowed. My heart dropped. I could feel the anger boiling inside me, but I forced myself to keep calm. After the picture was taken, I walked over to Liam. "Hey, buddy, you okay?" I asked softly. He nodded, but I saw the tears welling up in his eyes. He quickly wiped them away and forced a weak smile. "Yeah, I'm fine," he whispered, his voice barely audible. That was the breaking point for me. I turned to Kelly, who was busy arranging the next activity. "What the hell was that?" I demanded, louder than I intended. She looked at me with genuine confusion. "What are you talking about? Why would you tell Liam to step out of the picture? He's part of this family too," I said, my voice shaking with anger. Kelly rolled her eyes. "I just wanted a picture of Ava. It's her birthday after all. What's the big deal?" "The big deal is that you deliberately made Liam feel excluded," I shot back. "Do you even realize how much that hurt him?" "You're overreacting," she said dismissively. "He'll be fine." I turned to Liam, who was standing to the side, still clutching his gift and card. "Does he look fine to you?" I asked, my voice rising. The tension in the air was palpable. The other parents at the party avoided eye contact, pretending not to notice the argument unfolding. Kelly stormed off, muttering something under her breath, while I stayed with Liam, doing my best to console him. The party went on, but the damage was already done. Liam's mood was ruined, and so was mine. That night, after the kids were in bed, I confronted Kelly again. "You're tearing this family apart," I told her, my tone steady but firm. Her response was ice cold. "I'm already doing enough by letting him live here. Don't expect me to do more." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Letting him live here? Like he's some kind of outsider?" I said, struggling to keep my anger in check. "This is his home, Kelly. Have you forgotten that? If you can't treat him like he belongs here," I added, "then maybe this isn't going to work." She didn't respond, but the look on her face said it all. The divide in our family had never been more apparent, and I knew something had to change. "Åsen sammansurt sig," The fallout from Ava's party didn't end there. If anything, it lit a fuse that had been smoldering for years. For the next several days, Kelly and I barely spoke. The tension in the house was suffocating, even affecting Ava, who usually thrived on being the center of attention. Liam, on the other hand, kept his head down and stayed out of the way, as though he were accustomed to being collateral damage. Then came Thursday evening. I returned home from work, exhausted but determined to address the situation. Kelly was in the kitchen scrolling through her phone while Ava worked on homework at the dining table. Liam was nowhere in sight, likely hiding in his room as usual. "We need to talk," I said, setting my bag down. Without even looking up, Kelly replied, "About what?" "About Liam, about the way you treat him," I said, my voice firm. That got her attention. She set her phone down, crossed her arms, and leaned against the counter. "What now? I thought we already went over this." "No, we didn't," I said, doing my best to stay calm. "We fought." "That's not the same thing." "And I'm not letting this go." Sensing the brewing storm, Ava glanced up from her homework. Kelly waved her off. "Go to your room, Ava," she said curtly. Without a word, Ava gathered her books and disappeared upstairs. Once we were alone, I took a deep breath and began. "Liam's a great kid. He's kind, respectful, and has done nothing but try to be part of this family. But you've shut him out from the beginning, and I'm done pretending it's okay." Kelly rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. Don't make me the villain here. I've done plenty for him." "Like what?" I shot back. "Ignoring him? Treating him like a burden? Letting Ava walk all over him? That's not being a stepmom. That's being a bully." Her face turned red with anger. "How dare you call me a bully? I've done everything I can to make this work, but he's not my kid. He's your responsibility, not mine." "And Ava isn't mine," I countered, my voice rising. "But I've treated her like she is. I've provided for her, supported her, and loved her. Why can't you do the same for Liam?" "Because it's different," she snapped. "Ava's my daughter. Liam, he's just your son." Her words cut deep. "Just your son." As if he were nothing more than an outsider, a guest in his own home. "Do you even hear yourself right now?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You're not just hurting him, you're tearing this family apart. And if you can't see that, then maybe you don't belong here either." Her eyes widened, and for a brief moment, I thought she might apologize. But instead, she doubled down. "Unbelievable. I've put up with so much from you and Liam, and now you're threatening to kick me out? Fine. Maybe I should leave. Maybe you and your precious son would be better off without me." Her words hung in the air like poison. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned and walked upstairs to check on Liam. He was sitting on his bed with his headphones on, sketching in his notebook. When he saw me, he pulled off his headphones and gave me a weak smile. "Hey, Dad, everything okay?" I sat down beside him, my chest heavy with guilt and sorrow. "I'm working on it, bud," I said, ruffling his hair. "I promise." The next morning, I made a decision. Before taking any drastic steps, I needed proof, hard evidence of what was really happening. I hated the idea of spying in my own home, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover. The tension in our house, the way Liam seemed to shrink into himself more with each passing day, it all pointed to something deeper than what I had seen so far. I realized I needed the full truth, not just for my peace of mind, but for Liam's well-being as well. 1239, discovering the truth would also help me prepare for the divorce I was seriously beginning to consider. I ordered a few discreet cameras online, small enough to blend seamlessly into the background without drawing attention. When they arrived 2 days later, I spent the evening carefully setting them up in shared spaces. The living room, kitchen, and most importantly, Liam's bedroom. I was meticulous about positioning them to capture interactions while ensuring they didn't unnecessarily invade anyone's privacy. For the next week, I reviewed the footage every night after everyone else had gone to bed. At first, everything seemed normal. Liam mostly stayed in his room, either reading or sketching, while Kelly and Ava went about their routines. There were no obvious confrontations, and for a moment, I wondered if I was being paranoid or overreacting. Still, something deep inside told me I wasn't wrong to doubt. On the third day, the truth began to emerge. The recording started innocently enough, showing Liam sitting quietly on the couch in the living room, a book in his hands. Then, Ava entered the frame, her posture radiating entitlement. Without saying a word, she walked over to him and snatched the book from his hands. Liam looked up, startled, and reached out to get it back. "This isn't your house," Ava sneered, her voice dripping with venom. "Stop pretending like you belong here." She then flung the book across the room. Liam froze, a mix of confusion and pain flashing across his face. Slowly, he got up and walked over to pick up the book. But before he could, Kelly entered the room. She took in the scene, saw Liam bending to retrieve the book, and said coldly, "Leave it, Liam. Stop causing trouble." Liam's shoulders slumped, and he turned away without a word. Kelly didn't so much as glance at Ava, who was smirking in triumph. Watching this made my fists clench in anger. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a momentary lapse. It was deliberate exclusion orchestrated by both of them. The next incident unfolded in the kitchen. Liam had bought some snacks with his allowance and neatly stored them in the pantry. The footage showed Ava rummaging through his stash, pulling out a bag of chips and tearing it open. Moments later, Liam walked in and saw her. He approached hesitantly, his voice calm but firm. "Ava, those are my snacks. Could you please not eat them?" Her response was immediate and dismissive. "Mom says I can have whatever I want. You don't get to tell me anything." Kelly entered the scene seconds later, phone in hand. She glanced at them briefly, her expression indifferent. Ava smirked as if waiting for her backup. Kelly chuckled and said, "Don't be so selfish, Liam. Sharing won't kill you." Liam lowered his gaze, clearly trying to suppress his frustration. He left the kitchen quietly without saying another word, while Ava continued eating, her smugness almost unbearable. My heart broke as I watched. Liam's politeness and effort to be respectful were disregarded as if they meant nothing. But the worst moment came the following day. Liam had a favorite hoodie, one his late mother had given him. It was old and worn, but he cherished it as a tangible memory of her. The footage showed Ava using the hoodie to clean up a spill on the floor. Liam walked into the living room and froze when he saw her. "Ava, stop!" he pleaded, his voice trembling with emotion. "That's my hoodie. It's really important to me." Ava looked at him and laughed. "It's just a stupid hoodie. Get over it." Liam rushed forward to grab the hoodie from her, but before he could, Kelly appeared. She surveyed the scene, her lips curving into a faint smirk. "Maybe if you didn't leave your things lying around, this wouldn't happen," she said, her tone cold and mocking. Liam clutched the hoodie to his chest, tears welling up in his eyes, and turned to leave. Kelly grabbed his arm roughly. "I told you to stop whining, didn't I?" she snapped. "Go to your room before I make you regret it." Liam winced, his small frame recoiling from her grip. He nodded silently and retreated to his room, his shoulders shaking as he held the ruined hoodie. Ava's giggles echoed in the background, while Kelly turned away, completely unbothered. Watching that footage was like a punch to the gut. I had known things were bad, but this was beyond what I could have imagined. This was outright abuse. The realization was both devastating and clarifying. That night, I sat in the dark, replaying the scenes over and over in my mind. The evidence was clear, and so was my decision. I would file for divorce. This was no longer a safe or healthy environment for Liam or me. Action needed to be taken immediately. Hello, everyone. It's been a while since my last post, and I've been meaning to share an update. The situation with Kelly and Ava escalated quickly, and after much reflection, I realized I couldn't delay any longer. Here's what happened. The day I confronted Kelly with the video evidence was one of the hardest and most freeing moments of my life. I waited until Liam was at school and Ava was out with a friend. Kelly was in the living room, casually scrolling on her phone as if everything was normal. My heart was racing, but I knew I had to remain calm and stick to the facts. "Kelly," I started, holding a folder containing printed screenshots of the footage. "We need to talk. Now." She glanced up, annoyed. "Can it wait? I'm busy." "No," I said firmly, sitting down across from her. "It can't." I handed her the folder, and she opened it reluctantly. The screenshot showed Ava snatching Liam's book, mocking him over the snacks, and the incident with his hoodie. As she flipped through the images, her expression remained neutral. When she reached the frame of her grabbing Liam's arm and yelling at him, she tossed the folder onto the coffee table. "So what's your point?" she asked, crossing her arms. I stared at her, stunned. My point, Kelly, is that this is abuse. You and Ava have been treating Liam like he's not even part of this family. This wasn't just favoritism, it was outright cruelty. Kelly rolled her eyes dismissively. Oh, stop being so dramatic. Kids fight all the time. Liam needs to toughen up. And if you're upset about how I discipline him, maybe you should step up more as a parent. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Disciplining him? Kelly, you were mocking him, encouraging Ava to humiliate him. You even laughed when she used his late mother's hoodie to clean up a spill. Do you even hear yourself? I didn't wait for her to respond. That was the breaking point. At that moment, I knew there was no hope of salvaging this relationship. Any lingering belief I had that she might change, that she cared about this family, vanished entirely. 1851. I stood up, my hands trembling with anger. You're done here, Kelly, I said coldly. You and Ava need to pack your things and leave today. She let out a laugh as though I'd just told a joke. Excuse me? You're kicking us out? Out of my house? It's my house, I corrected her. I pay the mortgage, the bills, everything. And after the way you've treated Liam, you don't deserve to stay here. Her smug demeanor shifted, replaced by fury. You can't just kick us out. Where are we supposed to go? She snapped. That's not my concern, I replied firmly. I'll give you a week to sort it out, but you're not staying here any longer. I've already contacted a lawyer and I'm filing for divorce. She stood up yelling about how unfair I was being and how much she had sacrificed for this family. I didn't argue. I simply repeated, you have a week. Pack your things. Hey everyone, I'm back with another update. I've been meaning to write this for a while, but life has been a whirlwind since starting the divorce process. Honestly, I thought kicking Kelly and Ava out of the house would be the hardest part, but I was wrong. The real battle began when she got served with the divorce papers. After Kelly moved out, I filed for divorce immediately. My lawyer worked with me to lay out everything, the finances, custody of the house, and most importantly, ensuring Liam's safety. I had hoped Kelly would take the hint and move on quietly since it was obvious our relationship was beyond repair. But instead, she came back swinging, and not in a good way. The first sign of trouble came when I received her response to the divorce petition. Kelly was demanding half of everything, the house, the savings, the cars, and even a portion of my retirement fund. She also claimed she was entitled to spousal support because she had sacrificed so much for our marriage. I almost laughed when I read that. Sacrificed? All I could think about was the evidence of her cruelty toward Liam. If anyone had sacrificed anything, it was my son. But Kelly wasn't done. She hired a lawyer who clearly knew how to play dirty. They started making absurd claims, accusing me of being an absentee father and arguing that Kelly had been the primary caregiver for both kids. The idea was ludicrous. She had never shown any real care for Liam, and Ava had always been her sole priority. Still, in divorce court, accusations like these can stick if you don't have solid proof to counter them. That's when I remembered the videos. When I told my lawyer about the footage, she was thrilled. She said it could be a game changer, but stressed that we needed to present it carefully. The recordings were clear. They showed Kelly's cold indifference, her enabling of Ava's bullying, and the heartbreaking moment when she grabbed Liam's arm and berated him. When Kelly's lawyer learned about the videos, they tried to argue that the recordings were an invasion of privacy. But my lawyer quickly shot that down, explaining that the cameras were placed in shared spaces, not private ones, and were installed for Liam's protection. The judge allowed the evidence, and Kelly's narrative began to crumble. The courtroom was tense as the videos were played. I'll never forget Kelly's expression as the footage rolled. She squirmed in her seat, her usual smugness replaced by visible discomfort. Her lawyer tried to spin it, claiming the clips were taken out of context and that Kelly's actions were just her way of disciplining Liam. But there was no way to disguise her laughter as Ava humiliated Liam, or the coldness with which she dismissed his pleas. The judge wasn't convinced. In fact, they seemed disgusted by what they saw. I could feel the momentum shifting in my favor. Kelly didn't handle the outcome well. After that hearing, she doubled down on making my life as miserable as possible. She started spreading lies, telling anyone who would listen that I was the abusive one and had brainwashed Liam against her. Some of her family members even reached out, accusing me of being heartless for breaking up the family. It was infuriating, but I stayed focused on the legal process. The financial battle was the next major hurdle. Kelly continued to push for half of everything, despite never contributing financially to the household. Her lawyer argued that she deserved spousal support because she had been dependent on me throughout the marriage. My lawyer countered by presenting the videos as evidence, showing how Kelly's behavior had been the primary cause of our marriage's breakdown. The judge agreed with us. Kelly didn't get the house or the bulk of the savings. She walked away with a much smaller settlement than she had demanded, and no spousal support. The court acknowledged that her actions toward Liam were not only harmful, but a significant factor in the divorce. For the first time in years, I felt like someone was truly standing up for Liam and me. But the best outcome of all? Liam is now safe. The court granted me full custody, which means Kelly has no legal claim to him or the house. That had been my biggest fear, that she might try to use Liam as leverage despite never caring for him. But now she can't hurt him anymore. Thank you to everyone who encouraged me to take action. Your advice and support gave me the strength to do what needed to be done. If you're in a similar situation, please know there's a way out. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Liam and I are proof of that. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I started hearing through mutual acquaintances and nosy neighbors that Kelly wasn't doing well. She was staying with her sister, and things weren't going smoothly. At first, I didn't pay much attention. I was focused on rebuilding my life and helping Liam adjust. But then, Kelly started reaching out. It began with a few texts, seemingly innocent questions about Ava's schoolwork or belongings she'd left at the house. I responded politely, keeping the conversations brief and to the point. But before long, the messages started coming more frequently, and they weren't just about Ava anymore. Kelly began reflecting on our marriage, saying things like, "I didn't realize how good I had it," and "I miss the life we shared." I ignored most of these messages, but then the emails started arriving. In one particularly lengthy email, Kelly poured out her feelings, or at least pretended to. She wrote about how difficult life had been since the divorce, how unbearable it was living with her sister, and how Ava was struggling in school due to all the changes. She even tried to play on my emotions by claiming Ava missed both me and Liam and wanted to see us again. It was a clear attempt to make me feel guilty, but I wasn't falling for it. From what I'd heard, Kelly's sister wasn't thrilled about accommodating 2 additional house guests. Kelly had always been demanding, and now that she no longer had me as her financial safety net, the flaws in her life were becoming more apparent. She had never needed to manage a budget or worry about bills before, and it seemed the reality of living without someone to rely on financially was hitting her hard. Ava, meanwhile, wasn't adjusting well to the absence of the luxuries she had grown used to. The constant tension in their new living situation was clearly having an effect. But that was no longer my concern. One evening, Kelly called me. I stared at the screen briefly before declining the call. Seconds later, she sent a message. "Can we please talk? Just for a few minutes?" Against my better judgment, I responded, "What do you want, Kelly?" Her reply came almost instantly. "I just want to apologize. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize now how much I took for granted. I made mistakes, and I want to make things right." I stared at the message, my jaw clenching. This wasn't about making amends. It was about her realizing she couldn't handle the life she had created. I decided to call her bluff. "What exactly do you want to make right?" I asked. "The way you treated Liam? The way you allowed Ava to bully him? Or is this just about not having someone to pay your bills anymore?" Her reply was defensive. "That's not fair. I know I wasn't perfect, but I did the best I could. I miss the life we had. Don't you?" I didn't bother responding. Instead, I blocked her number. It was clear she hadn't changed. She was simply desperate. Desperate for the comfort and stability she had lost, and desperate for someone else to take on her responsibilities again. But I wasn't going to be that person anymore. Over the next few days, Kelly tried other ways to reach out. She emailed me from a different address, showed up at Liam's school claiming she wanted to check on him, and even sent a message through one of her friends. Each time, I shut it down, making it clear we were finished. She had made her choices and now had to live with them. A few months have passed, and Kelly's attempts to reconcile have slowed, though I wouldn't be surprised if she tried again. From what I've heard, she's still struggling, bouncing between jobs and heavily relying on her sister. Ava is reportedly acting out, which doesn't surprise me given how she was raised. While I feel some sympathy for them, I know it's not my responsibility to fix their lives. My focus is on Liam and ensuring he grows up in a loving, stable environment. To anyone reading this who might find themselves in a similar situation, let me offer this. People like Kelly rarely change. They may come to realize what they've lost, but that doesn't mean they're willing to take accountability or make genuine amends. Thank you all for following my story.